GenAI lies. They call it hallucinating, but it's not that. And hallucinating sounds almost poetic and incidental. What GenAI does is neither of those. Let me tell you about Brian Hood. ChatGPT told anyone who asked that Brian, who was the mayor of a small Australian town near Melbourne, had been convicted of bribery, and that he had been sentenced to 30 months in jail for this crime. Now, none of that is actually true. The true story is the opposite. Brian Hood was a whistleblower in a bribery scandal. He was actually praised for his courage and obviously never charged with anything. ChatGPT didn't just get it wrong, it got it wrong with details, dates, and very confident phrasing. So yeah, GenAI lies. And this is probably not a surprise to you. Almost everyone has at the very least seen a video, read an article, or has been trained that GenAI hallucinates. Or maybe you caught GenAI red-handed. A wrong date, a source that didn't exist, something that was incorrect. And you filed it away. Okay, GenAI sometimes get things wrong. Got it. But do you really know what it means? The research puts hallucination rates in open-ended tasks somewhere between 25 and 40%. Now, some of you will hear that and think, that doesn't match my experience. I use it all the time and it's mostly fine. But what you experience is only your specific window, and your window is very small. You only catch the errors on topics you already know enough about to catch. The ones you don't know about pass straight through without your knowledge. Now, multiply that by hundreds of millions of daily users. The cumulative volume of confident misinformation being generated and trusted right now is unimaginable. AI models work by predicting the most plausible next word given everything that came before and that was part of their training data. They are not retrieving truth. They are generating based on probability. And probability, by definition, is sometimes wrong. Fluently and convincingly, but at times catastrophically wrong. Take Arve Hjalmar Holmen. He was a Norwegian man, and he GPT'd himself one day, as we used to Google ourselves. The system told him that he had been convicted of child murder and sentenced to 21 years in prison for killing 2 of his own sons. Now, this was definitely not true, and both his sons are alive and well. But the thing that makes these systems powerful is the same thing that makes them dangerous. They're fluent, coherent, and contextually convincing about almost anything. But they are still probabilistic in nature, which means they will generate a probable answer and not necessarily a truthful or correct one. And it's even worse than that, because it is impossible to predict the specific shape of the failure when it comes. You couldn't have designed a guardrail for it in advance because you couldn't have known that that was what was going to come out. So it's not just that hallucinations happen, it's that you don't know what they look like when they do. Will it misspell the name of a medication, or does it give you very dangerous medical advice? Let's go back to the beginning though. GenAI lies. Except it doesn't lie, because lying requires a relationship to truth. A liar knows what's true and chooses to say something else. Now, that relationship, even when it's corrupted, still matters. Which brings me to a philosopher named Harry Frankfurt. Frankfurt wrote an essay with the title, On Bullshit. His argument was this: a liar has a relationship to truth, and they care enough about it to hide it. A bullshitter, however, doesn't. Frankfurt's bullshitter is not someone who gets things wrong, it's someone who has stopped caring whether what they say is true. They're not playing the truth game at all. They're playing a different game, the game of impression, authority, and of sounding smart. Frankfurt argued that that indifference to truth is more corrosive than lying, because a liar still acknowledges that truth matters enough to hide it. But the bullshitter has simply left that conversation. Now, Frankfurt was talking about political speech, about the BS that fills space without caring whether it corresponds to reality. GenAI systems don't have intentions. They're not performing anything. But structurally, in terms of their relationship to truth, they do occupy exactly the position Frankfurt described. They're not built to find truth, they are built to produce language that sounds like it comes from somewhere true. So they don't exactly lie, and they also don't exactly guess. They just output plausibly. There's a known neurological condition called confabulation. It happens when a damaged brain fills gaps in memory with fabricated details, coherently, confidently, and completely believable, even to the person confabulating. The brain in that case isn't lying, it just doesn't know that there is a gap. It completes a pattern in the best way it can. Now that's a brain malfunctioning. In these systems, it's not a malfunction, it is the default state. Lying, bullshit, confabulation. These are three different words and three different things, really, but they all point at the same structural reality. These systems have no concept of truth. Not a flawed one or a limited one, but literally none. The question then becomes, what are we willing to lose in exchange for the convenience of a system that sounds like it knows? Now, Hood and Holman didn't need a technical explanation of large language models or smarty-pants philosophers. What they needed was at least one person to ask a simple question. What if the thing we're unleashing on the world is confidently wrong? Not even necessarily because anyone wants it to be or explicitly chooses for it to be, but because it's intrinsic to how the system works. Confabulation is exactly what GenAI does, and the better it gets at it, the more we lose our shared connection to reality. And I'm not convinced that writing faster emails is worth it at all.